Hello and welcome back to Shakesyear. We are working on the Spanish tragedy, and we get to hear from the King of Spain again today in Act 1, Scene 2. So he started off the scene asking the Spanish general sort of exactly what happened during the war between Spain and Portugal, and the general told him, and basically Spain came out on top, even though Don Andrea was killed and is now watching as a ghost over here with the spirit of revenge. He was killed by Balthazar, the Prince of Portugal, who has now been taken captive and is being escorted through the town by Lorenzo and Horatio. So there was a bit of a question of whose prisoner is Balthazar, because both Lorenzo and Horatio had a hand in, knocking him off his horse, bringing him in, disarming him, all of that kind of stuff. So when the king is like, okay, whose prisoner is it? Lorenzo's like, it's mine. And Horatio's like, no, it's mine. And he turned to Balthazar even and was like, okay, so who did you surrender to? And Balthazar is like, well, a little bit of both. And Hieronymo, who is Horatio's dad, is like, if I could just advocate on behalf of Horatio, that would be awesome. And also, incidentally, Lorenzo is, I believe, the nephew of the king. So there's familiar ties on both sides for both of them to get it. So Hieronymo is like, can Horatio have this one? And the king is like, okay, does everybody agree to go by my judgment? And they're all like, yeah, we do. And the king says, then, by my judgment, thus your strife shall end. You both deserve, and both shall have reward. Nephew, thou tookst his weapon and his horse. His weapons and his horse are thy reward. Horatio, thou didst force him first to yield. His ransom, therefore, is thy valor's fee. Appoint the sum as you shall both agree. But, nephew, thou shalt have the prince in guard, for thine estate best fitteth such a guest. Horatio's house were small for all of his train. Yet, in regard thy substance passeth his, and that just guerdon may befall desert, to him we yield the armor of the prince. How likes Don Balthazar of this device? So he's doing a little bit of like Solomon-ing here. He wants to make sure that both men are rewarded for what they do. So he gives Lorenzo Balthazar's weapon and his horse. He gives Horatio the money for having captured this prisoner, but he says we're going to hold Balthazar prisoner at Lorenzo's place because he just has more space. He has a nicer place to do it. But Balthazar's armor is going to go to Horatio. So dividing things up as seem appropriate based on the role that each of them played in capturing Balthazar. And then he asks Balthazar for his opinion, like, what do you think? Does this work? And Balthazar is like, yeah, sounds fair to me. And the king's like, okay, great, cool. So let's go pay our soldiers and then have a feast. And that's the end of Act 1, Scene 2. So very diplomatic ending to this war between Spain and Portugal, but we are going to have to dig into the revenge bit at some point, and it's still coming, I promise. We only finished the second scene today. There's plenty of play left to go. So I will see you tomorrow for more. Mwah.